Good morning, I'm Ilka Oster.
Morning, I'm Jo Drennan. What does it mean to stand in your own power?
Well, if you'd come to my house when my children were small, you may not have seen many good demonstrations of that, because I was very good at suppressing my emotion for a very long time, and then eventually something had happened, like we'd have to get out the door, and of course all the jobs have to be done before you get out the door. So I'd start making requests to my children to help me or to get some things done, and I would start going into more and more, like it started sounding like a demand, and then I'd be starting to get really angry because things weren't happening the way I wanted them to happen. I had lots of impossible expectations around what it meant to be a mother.
Sounds very familiar to me.
Yeah. And I would have called most of what was happening, particularly when there was time, it felt like time restrictions. I was creating them, of course, but it felt like time restrictions. I would go into power over mode, and really not even, I didn't know what was going on for me inside my own body. That was not really even something I actually would check in with or anything like that. But power with yourself is what we're talking about today in this video. And power with yourself is a very different thing, because then you can express from how you're feeling, what it's like.
So tell us what, in that scenario, how it used to happen.
Yeah.
If you knew what you know now, what would it look like now?
Well, I wouldn't actually probably even think all the jobs need to get done, because I don't have these impossible expectations of myself anymore. But to do that, I had to really start checking in with myself a lot, and over the last 5 years that's what I've done, is but sat with my own emotions and gone into my body, noticing what's going on for me, starting to get to know myself, and really getting to know myself on a really deep level, so that I can be with myself, and therefore I'm then showing my children how they can be with themselves too. Does that make sense?
So, yeah. So when you say with yourself, so I'm thinking understanding your feelings.
Yes.
And being able to calmly express them.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yes.
So
well,
I still can get up in my head often, but the key to doing this is to really notice your feelings, become very aware of your feelings, and be able to, like my kids know my voice on the phone, for example. So they will say, "Oh, Mum, what's wrong?" And I think in the past I would have, I don't know, I think I also had a thing about you can't tell your kids everything, and I mean, they're a lot older now, but I actually do now. I just say, "Oh, well, I'm feeling a bit upset. I'm feeling annoyed." And the minute that I say it from my own power, so that's being with my power, even though it's expressing something that might not be seen as being a powerful emotion, it's still that I'm with myself.
Yeah. And I think it's a great example to give them. When you can do it, then they learn that they can do it as well, and they can name the emotion and understand the feeling, and once there's so much relief in once you say it and you're not fighting the feeling.
Yeah.
And then you can move through it more quickly when you acknowledge it. I know when my kids were little, I also stuffed down emotions and anger and frustration, and thought that I was still behaving the same way. But if you're a fly on the wall, and in fact even my children later could say to me, you know, they brought to my attention that my behavior changed, my voice changes, my posture changes, and here I am thinking I'm fine, but it doesn't work that way.
No, I think they could probably tell us a lot more about how we're being back then than I could myself, which is definitely doesn't work. That's not being in your own power. When your children can see more about how you're actually being emotionally, then you're actually able to see. We want it the other way around.
Yeah, that's why we say they're our greatest teachers.
Yes.
If we let them be, if we invite them. Because,
Yeah.
you know, if you're angry and if I'm angry and I'm suppressing emotions, the last thing I want my child to do is to point that out to me.
But if you can let that happen, then you're on the road to making massive changes and actually being able to understand yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and being open and honest with your children and inviting them to do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very empowering.
It is indeed.
Yeah. And it's not a power. I love the way that I've heard it's expressed. It's power with your children as opposed to power over, and that's what we're all about.
Yes, and we'd
in
love to
awakened
know
parenting.
if you've had a similar experience to either of us, or where you've seen a change, where you know what we're talking about and you've behaved differently and seen the more peaceful interaction because you've stepped into your power rather than chosen power over.
Yeah, love to hear about that. Tell us in the comments.
Thanks so much for joining us here at Mooloolaba Beach, and we'll see you next Wednesday, and
Inspire someone today.